team. For today's episode, I sit down with two graduates from the individual coaching course, Maddie and Phil. And in this episode, I asked them about their coaching journey, why they started, why they transitioned out of previous jobs, and some of the biggest challenges and struggles that they have faced since becoming coaches. So if you are a coach, or if you're thinking about being a coach, you're just interested to hear about what the coaching industry is like, I fully recommend listening to this episode. Enjoy. Hello, Maddie. Hello, Phil, and welcome to the Process podcast.
Hi.
Hello, thank you.
Maddie, I'm going to start with you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing well. I've had a nice morning. Dropped my daughter off at a birthday party just before I came. Made the bus as well, so I wasn't rushing. Yeah, it's been a good day.
You arrived here exactly on time.
Yeah, I was pretty pleased with that.
Phil, your journey to Coastal Fitness today has been a bit different because you don't live here.
Yes.
How's your day been?
Oh, pretty good. I mean, enjoying Hong Kong the whole morning and afternoon and finding my way. Did a workout and had a nice coffee in the morning. That was good.
And you're here for some high rocks this weekend?
Yes, absolutely. Sunday, mixed team, ready for it.
Love it. Okay, some context for today's conversation. You are both graduates of the Process Programming Individual Coaching course. You were a part of, I think, our second ever cohort. And we have always wanted to do this podcast. We've always wanted to do a podcast where we bring on some graduates and talk about your story, your journey. And you guys have pretty interesting stories, pretty interesting journeys that I really wanted to share with the rest of the world. So thank you for stepping into the uncomfortable zone and joining me on this podcast. I know you both listen to episodes from time to time, so very cool to actually have you on here. But we are going to talk about coaching. And so the first question I'd like to start, and I'm going to start with you, Maddie, this is going to be a theme today, is what does your actual coaching practice look like right now? That's my first question.
Like, what kind of coach am I?
Yeah, well, I kind of like, who are you working with? Where are you working with your clients? What does your coaching and training look like?
I mostly work with mums to be and postpartum mums. I work at home gyms. I do home visits, which is really convenient for mums, especially in the early postpartum period. It's really hard to take like half an hour to get to a gym, do 1 hour, etc. And I'm fortunate enough to also work at the Vault Fitness in Shangwan. Yeah.
Which is kind of like, the Vault is a beautiful gym. You got sick equipment there.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like a personal training studio, right? You rent your hour, take your clients there, coach.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Phil, what does your coaching practice look like right now?
I work in pure personal trainer gym.
Singapore?
In Singapore, yes. I'm from Singapore. And but it's like, I don't know, maybe you have heard of it, but it's called UFit, and it's like a fitness and health center. And so we are connected, like we have an in-house clinic, nutritionist, like physiotherapist, all this stuff. And we have like created a cycle of care where we like share the clients with physios, nutritionists, and we all work together to get the best out of the clients. Yeah, it's quite interesting.
Yeah, I feel like UFit has been around for quite a while in Singapore. Yeah. And I feel like it's expanded and grown quite a lot in recent years.
I think especially the last year's decision or changes are pretty good. Like this year has been insane, like busy. I have like average 30 to 33, 35 one-on-one sessions a week. And this is not enough. We have like 20 coaches on the floor. And
so it's pumping.
It's pumping, yeah.
Do you do any group classes or just personal training?
I do group classes. So we have also like group classes in-house, a little bit like CrossFit, Metcom style, like performance or cardio classes, strength classes. But also we, because it's Singapore CBD area, so we work a lot with corporate classes. So companies come, book an hour, and then we do something with them, and then we go. So I teach 3 classes. Yeah, I have a strength class, cardio class, and 1 corporate class, and then let's see.
Love it. Yeah. Okay, so where I want to take this now, I'm going to just rewind a little bit. I want to rewind to where your careers started. And I think you guys have both had pretty different stories. Maddie, your career kind of started with the individual coaching course, if I'm not wrong. It was kind of an early part of your coaching journey. Can you share a little bit, Maddie, about what your journey has looked like so far?
From the very beginning.
Go back as far as you like.
When I was 8.
Well, it probably does start there. I would say, so before I became a coach, I worked in a primary school and I was an educational assistant. And I learned so much there. I think that's where the seed of being an educator or a coach, teacher was planted. Because I didn't enjoy my school experience for the most part. And then I just was learning about all these ways that you could nurture children and how all these ways to educate them that it's not the same as when we were at school. You know, it's just evolved so much. And I think that my passion came from there. And I loved working with young kids and making them feel safe. And then my confidence in that environment grew and grew and grew. And then after 7 years, I needed something more because I was someone's assistant. I was really good and I really enjoyed it, but I was like, it's time to move on. I want to do something. I kept saying, I want to do something more meaningful. And at that time, the teacher I was working with, who became a really good friend of mine, was pregnant, and she didn't know how to move her body. Everyone was telling her not to do things. Like they were saying, don't stand on the chair to hang something up in your classroom. And I found that just like as a woman, like we get told what to do with our bodies all the time. Like it's her body, it's her second baby as well. Like she knows what she can do, but there's just so little knowledge. And then that there was, I guess, another seed was planted. And I was like, I just felt so passionate. Like I can feel the passion inside already.
Can I just pause you there, Maddie? Mm-hmm. Were you a mum at this point as well?
No.
Okay.
No,
Continue.
not yet. Yeah, this is 2018, 2019, that academic year where I started to feel like I wanted something more. And I knew I was going to leave, but like to do what, I'm not sure. I was studying part-time to try and get a degree in education because I was like, I'll be a teacher. Like I don't want to be an assistant anymore. And then education in that format made me very anxious. I didn't understand why. I felt like a failure. I felt like I was disappointing everyone. I felt like I had to get this degree to be accepted and so people would be proud of me because I didn't get my degree the first time around. Digressing a little, but it's important. Yeah, I sat down with someone and they guided me to realize that there are other ways of teaching. I was in this very fixed mindset of I have to be a teacher. Like you can't teach. You have to be registered with the Education Bureau. Like I can't teach. And she's like, well, you can. And my only other love was rugby. And I was coaching rugby and coaching rugby coaches. But I knew I didn't want to make that full time. So this counselor brought up yoga because she could see that I was just so anxious. And apparently as soon as I started talking about yoga, I was like, yoga provides this space where I can just let everything go. And it really calmed me down. And then that's the path I chose. I went on a kids yoga teacher training and like, yeah, if we're talking about a seed, like it started to sprout and I was like, this is amazing. I found like-minded people. I went on an adult yoga teacher training. But I still had this like desire to work with women, but I just took this path and I was a yoga teacher for several years. In the meantime, I still wanted to work with women. I still wanted to empower women and teach women to love themselves and love their bodies because we're brought up to hate our bodies especially in Asia, anything bigger than like a toothpick, then especially if you have an Asian mother, it's very, very difficult. We have like opposite size trauma, I think. Yeah. Where was I? And then
So yoga teaching, wanted
I
to
did
help women.
so I would say in terms of coaching, I did Girls Gone Strong pre and postnatal coaching while I was a yoga teacher. And then I was still a full-time yoga teacher at Pure. So on the side, I was coaching people part-time, mostly just friends, pregnant friends, and then their husband. And then had a baby and wanted more. Wasn't getting fulfillment from my job. It wasn't flexible. My time suddenly became like 10 times more valuable. And the hours I was putting into working at Pure just wasn't enough.
And Pure Fitness, for those listening, is like a big commercial gym, like Les Mills style classes, as well as, your typical just come in and use the gym space. Probably one of Hong Kong's biggest gyms.
It's just all classes.
Yeah.
But yeah, like over 100 yoga teachers, a really big corporation. And before I'd had a child, I completely respect that's the way you have to operate as a business. And then after it, I was like, no, I want more autonomy. I want more agency of my time. I don't want to work evenings. And it was a bit of a battle. And I didn't realize, but I was really unhappy. And I had been listening to your podcast for a long time. And then I heard about the individual coaching course, and it just lined up with when I resigned and the cohort started. And then I actually started coaching before I even graduated from the course, because I did NASM like 12 years ago.
Yeah.
So I was like, technically, I'm like qualified, and I had Girls Gone Strong.
But can I ask, the individual coaching course and what we're teaching on it, very different to what you were doing at that point in time. So I can understand now, you've had a child. Time is now really precious to you. You want to be able to have a bit more autonomy in your schedule and have a bit more flexibility, take ownership, I guess, of your career a little bit more, and be in control of it. But why pivot to the individual coaching course, strength training, energy system training, going down a very different route? What was the reason there?
That's a good question, because actually on top of the time and the mother side of it, and which I guess was linked to my pregnancy, I wasn't getting what I was looking for from yoga.
In your own training.
From yoga.
Yeah.
And it was only after I had my child that I realized I was hypermobile. I didn't really understand what that meant. And if I had niggles, I was in an environment where everyone just stretches and just goes deeper. And it just left me in more and more pain. And I was really like confused, but I also had my own resistance training that I did on the side, which was becoming harder to find time for. And every time I did resistance training, I felt better. And then so I was also at this kind of crossroads with yoga, where I think that was adding to I think it's linked.
Yeah.
I can't say which caused which. I was unhappy, and then the yoga was no longer, but I just wasn't getting what I needed from it, like from either, like physically, emotionally, spiritually. Yeah.
So it was almost like to help, I guess, from a training perspective, it was looking for tools to help your own physical body repair post childbirth, and you didn't feel like you had the skills, or that you didn't have the knowledge to be able to help you. Would you say that's correct?
No. I would say because I'd kind of learned that before, and this was to become a coach. This was I had done coaching courses in the past, but then without putting it into practice, you don't get any experience, you don't get any confidence. And it was almost like a guarantee when I heard you guys talking about it, that we would have confidence to be coaches. We would be able to make livelihood out of this. And just having listened to your podcast for so long, and really appreciating your transparency and your vulnerability, I was like, I know I'll be in good hands. It was a really big investment at the time, especially as I thought the price was in Hong Kong dollars, not US dollars, which is, looking back, is really naive actually. But I was like, oh, okay.
We learned from that, by the way. We made it a lot more obvious after that.
When you just talked about programming and how to talk, just the way you were describing the coaching course, I was like, this is the kind of coach I want to be. And I'm going to learn from people that I already know, their values align with mine and that I respect. Yeah. So it just came, I believe things just fall into place at the right time. Yeah.
Love it. Phil.
Yes.
Tell me about your coaching journey.
Where do I start?
Well, I'd like you to take us back. You put a really...
When I was 8.
Yeah. When I was 8.
You put a cool... I mean, one of the parts, one of the stages in the course, the final stage, we asked you guys to dig into your origin story, right? Which is basically like, what brought you to this point in time now? What are the dots that have connected you to now be pursuing this course, or whether it's, a career in coaching or leveling up your existing coaching career? And then you shared that on one of the cohort calls. You had a really cool story, and then you shared it on social media. I remember seeing your posts like Phil before fitness and where you're at in your life. Tell us about that story.
Yeah. Okay. Going back, actually, I'm an engineer, so I worked I worked for like 6-7 years as an engineer for Porsche, and a really cool job, by the way. Like, I crashed all the cars on the racetrack and looked at the data, things like this. So I really love that part of the job. Absolutely super team, good friends. Still now I'm connected with them. But I also did to do that job. I did like every month a business trip, at least 1 week, sometimes even 3 weeks. And I have to say, I gained a lot of weight during that time, but also I've always been active, but like I've never been like super athletic. That's what I would say. And that time or those years made it worse. Until one point I looked in the mirror and I was like, I think I need to change something. That was right before COVID. And yes, so I started changing nutrition, started to go to the gym.
So I'm going to cut you off there, Phil. Let's go back to that day where you're standing in the mirror.
Yeah.
So you're looking in the mirror and you're saying something has to change. Why? What was happening in your life right now?
Couldn't look at myself. Like, I was a little bit disgusted. I was like, okay, something needs to change. This is not.
And had that feeling been building up for a certain amount of time, or was that just one day you looked at the mirror?
That was one. Yeah, I think if you're unhappy or like you sleep as shit, you're not moving well. It's like everything, and you carry that a long time, and then you come to one point, and then you look in the mirror and like, nah, it has to change now. And from that on the next day, I did like a low carb diet. So I cut off all my carbs, and then, yeah.
But was there a specific thing that happened on that day, or maybe before that day, leading up to that day, that made you because, okay, so correct me if I'm wrong, but often when we're in those pits of depression, feeling bad about ourselves, feeling unhappy, we know that we need to do something, but it's being able to action that is a very different thing. What was the thing that made you suddenly decide, I'm going to do something about this today?
That's a good question. Need to dig a little bit. I think it's like a certain pain you feel in yourself of unhappiness, and you don't want to feel that again. And then you create something in your mind where you're like, okay, it has to change now. Otherwise, like,
it's like, this is the lowest of the low. We can't keep on going.
Exactly. Yeah. And then it changed, like on the next day, completely changed my nutrition. And then I always went to the gym like 2-3 times a week, just did a little resistance training, but nothing special. And then I started with functional training, actually, which was a game changer. And then COVID hit, and I had a friend, and we met every week at least 3-4 times on some car park places, bought some barbells, dumbbells, and just created our own workouts. And then like my physique changed, my mental health changed. I got more confident. Then people realize around you what how you have changed, and then start asking you questions like, how did you do it? And I realized I really like to help. Like I really like to talk about that, and I really like to help them. And I think that was one seed planted in my head. Okay, maybe I should consider to go in a coaching career or something like this, or to do something on the side. So I did some courses, something like this, and slowly moved in the direction of being a coach, but not really confident. Like not like nothing. It was just like, even though you hear a lot of courses or things like this, you do online research, YouTube. I mean, it's fantastic tools what we have nowadays, right? But like you just, if you sit and have to think about a workout, what we're doing today, I think my first group classes, things like this, it was just like, okay, let's somehow just kill them. And then they feel like they had an amazing training, but there was no plan, no idea, no structure behind it. And with the move to Singapore, I started to do CrossFit. Obviously, more and more physique, personal physique changed, and then I tried to find a job in Singapore, which is not easy because of visa issues.
Why did you move to Singapore, Phil?
Followed my wife. She got a job as a teacher.
So at this point in time, you've quit your job at Porsche.
Yeah.
You've moved to Singapore, no job.
Yeah.
And you've almost got this opportunity now to kind of start from scratch.
Exactly.
Got it.
So and I applied as engineers, like look for engineering jobs, but at the same time, I sneakily also looked for PT jobs and thought, okay, maybe I can get this rolling. And
was that scary? Was that scary?
Yeah, scary
applying for that job?
because you don't know what's happening. It's also like it's not your mother language. Yeah. Also, I did another certification in English just to get more on paper. And then I had like let me remember. I had like some interviews with an engineering position, quite similar to what I did with Porsche. But that somehow, like I almost had the contract to sign, but then somehow they called me and said like, sorry, this position is not open anymore or not happening anymore. And then on the next day or 2 days later, I got like something like interview invitation from UFIT, and then they offered me to become a PT at their place. Also with the background, because I can remember the interview, they said like it's quite unique that you come from corporate and you understand how people feel when they walk into the gym or about to have like a day ahead or come from a very long day. And I think that was one of the key moments where I thought, okay, maybe I can get this rolling. And then it took like 6 months to get my visa in, things like this, like horrible time. But yeah, now I'm 2 years coaching on the floor and I'm not regretting any minute. Yeah.
Love it. Okay, I want to just thank you for sharing, both of you, origin stories. Very, very cool. You both started touching on the people that you're working with. So Maddie, you have like this passion for working with women and mums. Phil, I'm going to get into your kind of like target market in a second. But you know, one of the other things we talk about in the course is like your niche. Like, you know, who do you want to work with? Who do you want to serve? How do you want to serve them? I wanted to quickly interrupt this episode with a quick shout out to our sponsors, Today Well Spent. I've been using this journal for 2 years and it has made a massive impact on my physical, but mostly my mental well-being. It is a guided journal backed by neuro and behavioral science, which I actually didn't know at the time. It has questions for you to answer at the start of the day, at the end of the day, end of every week, end of every month. And it's brought so much self-awareness to me of the things that positively and negatively impact my life. So if you're someone who cares about your physical and your mental well-being, which I think you do because you listen to this podcast, then go and grab yourself a Today Well Spent. Use the discount code THEPROCESS, one word in capitals, to get your discount. So Maddie, I want to go back to you on this. What are your thoughts? Like the whole idea of like niches, is that something you think about? Would you say you have a niche? Do you serve multiple niches? Yeah, please.
The reason
elaborate.
I'm smiling is because when I finished my website, I think when I finished the coaching course, you were encouraging me to pursue this niche. And I was like, I don't want to box myself in. I want to work with Gen Pop. I want to work with anyone who wants to do health and fitness. Yeah, it was when we had to do that last assignment.
I remember the graphic.
Yeah. And now, like recently, within the last couple of months, I've gone like, I love this. I love working with moms. I love connecting with moms. Like, yes, let's niche it. Like I love it. Pre and postnatal fitness. And it's really women's health, women's fitness that's my passion. And I love it so much. So it's what I'm going to do.
It's funny, like, I think when you first get asked that question, if you don't already have your clear niche and like who you want to serve, it's a very hard question to answer. And I've always actually struggled with it, but I think also because there's lots of people that I do enjoy working with. And I think, one of the things we see on the course is like, sometimes you just got to get started. Just say yes to everything. And then by process of elimination, over time, you will start to see it. Whatever season of life you're in right now, someone's going to speak to you, maybe a little bit more than someone else. And so what's cool with yours is that your niche is very linked to your own journey, I think, in a sense, going back to like your childhood years, the body image and being told what you should look like, what you shouldn't, then becoming a mum and experiencing all of that and having walked that journey. Would you say that has had an impact on why you feel really passionate about serving mums and women?
Yeah, definitely. That was so much of it. And also like in high school, like, if you thought you looked good in a photo, you'd be called vain or like, oh, they're so vain or they're so full of themselves. So you're almost taught like not to love yourself and not to look at yourself in the mirror. And then I had like lots of pressure coming from home to lose weight and be thin. And then, it was weird because I would look in the mirror and think, well, I think I look okay. And then, but I'd be told that I didn't. And actually, when you look at the media, like it's just one interesting thing, Bridget Jones's Diary.
Yeah.
And that came out like when we were teenagers and she was really fat, right? Yeah. In that movie. And I've watched it since and I'm like, no, she's not. But at the time when I watched it as a teenager, I was like following the trend and going like, yes, she is. And like, I'm just thinking she's like not even like, doesn't even really look that overweight. Like, and it's, that is mindset. And that fuels my passion because, and I said this to a client, like you'll just start working out and you'll get like a little bit sore and you'll feel those muscles that you haven't connected with in so long. And then that'll motivate you and you'll just keep going. You'll feel better. And then one day you'll, yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Phil, what about your niche? Would you say you have a niche? Is there like a certain type of person that you find yourself coaching these days?
It's I think it's a tricky question. I thought about this last week, and I thought, okay, maybe because I do a lot of high rocks, maybe I have like more athletes is my niche. But then I really enjoy just the normal average people walking in. You have a great chat. you help them, they get some confidence, and then they're ready for the day. Or you like receiving a text after, it's like, thanks for the session, I feel so good. It's like, oh, this is making my day.
Do you sometimes see like the old Phil?
Yeah.
Did you see the old Phil in your clients sometimes? You know, that Phil who's like not happy with himself. I mean, I'm wondering if that's something that you really gravitate towards. If you feel that.
I never thought about this, to be honest. Could be. Could be, yeah, maybe. Yeah. If I think about it now, it's like, if my old Phil, like old me, would have had a coach on the side, and because coaching is not just like exercising and having a plan behind it. It's like, I always say, it's like more therapy than anything else, because you know, one-on-one, they talk a lot to you, and you know secrets of them. You like, they share almost everything with you, and then you like give them like words to encourage them, and then you move a little bit weights around them. So I think if I would have had something like this, yes, then that would have helped me, or would have like, would have changed a lot. So yeah, when I think about it, yeah, could be. I don't know.
Yeah, more digging as well.
Yeah, more digging. Yeah.
Okay, good. Now we know your stories.
Yeah.
And where it starts. And Maddie, your story is actually, you know, goes a lot deeper. Just the form of coaching has kind of just evolved, I think, over the years. What are some of the hardest things that you guys have experienced in starting out as a coach? What are the biggest challenges? Maddie, I'll start with you.
Because I'm freelance, definitely finding clients. Yeah, it's
did you have this vision that it would be really easy?
No, I never thought it would be easy. That's one of the reasons I was so scared to do it, because I was like, I was really fortunate that I have a very supportive friend. She's been pregnant and postpartum at all the right times it's for me to practice. And I don't know how to say this, but I was able to I'm fortunate enough that my income isn't the main income of the household. Not that it's been easy, but I don't need to pay rent and yeah.
The pressure's off a little bit.
Yeah, the pressure's off. So I was like, this is my plan. This is what I'm going to do. This is kind of how I'm going to do it, which it never goes exactly like that, but that was, and I'm just going to wait and see, actually. Like some people, they leave their jobs and then they're the main income earner and they have to just throw themselves into things.
Yeah.
And I was like very conservative with that because I didn't want to burn out. And I know I've burnt out before trying to do too much, trying to be more like other people. Oh, they're doing, like when I was at Pure, they can teach 23, 25 classes a week. I can do that. I was teaching like 14, 15. Did it for 2 weeks and I'd just be exhausted. And then I'd be like off sick, and then we don't get paid when we're sick. And then the stress cycle continues. So I was just like, okay, let's like not do that again. Let's just not go too crazy. Let's just like gradually go into the deep end. And just learning on the go and giving myself enough time to learn as I'm going, rather than being like so overly busy that you don't have time to learn from mistakes or from the process.
So when coming back to then the biggest challenge for you, which is like finding clients, what has that looked like for you since starting?
You get a lot of people who are really interested. I actually also attract perimenopausal and postmenopausal women. I have 3 clients over 70.
Awesome.
Yeah. And you get a lot of people who are like, great, give me your number. And then they're really excited and you walk away and you're like, great. And then nothing happens. But I know that's part of the process. And like, I'll send flyers out. I recently did a promo where I was offering almost 50% off. I called it 555. And then we like sent that to all the mom groups. It probably went to like 400 moms and I got 3 clients from it. I think that's actually pretty successful.
Pretty good.
Yeah. But it's just like learning, because when you first start, that's terrifying because that's like rejection. But you can't, that's what I mean by taking it slow. Like if I received that 10 times or day after day after day, that would probably be a lot for me.
Yeah.
Some people can handle it, but like I know that I'm very sensitive and empathetic and passionate. That would hurt. So I just,
Something that really helped me with that. I think, when I think about marketing and trying to promote yourself, we certainly put out a lot of effort and energy into all of our different business channels, trying to ultimately, get a lead and then convert that lead. And I listened to this really cool podcast, and he was talking about Apple. So like, there is actually a unit measurement for this that businesses look at, so for every person that, let's say you have a physical shop, let's say an Apple store, and the people that walk into your Apple store, let's say you get 100 people walk into an Apple store, the conversion on how many of those 100 actually purchase an Apple product is on average 1. So 1 out of 100 purchase. And that's, you got 100 leads, but only one of them is actually making a buying decision. And this is a buying decision on, sometimes small, like a small item, not like personal training or a gym membership, which is a huge commitment and a massive financial commitment. And so if Apple, who are one of the best in the world at, converting leads, having 100-to-1 ratio, like, go a bit easier on yourself. Honestly, that was a big thing I took away from listening to that. It was like, yeah, you know what? We put out a lot of shit every single day. And sometimes, you put all this effort into events, marketing, creating reels, creating videos, reaching out to groups, and you get this one person sign up. And sometimes you think, what a waste of time. Actually, doing pretty damn well. And I think, the second part to that is, especially with personal training and coaching, which is a massive commitment. It's a massive financial commitment. It's an emotional commitment, and it's a massive time commitment as well. Like, you have to put hours towards this thing now that you weren't previously putting in. And the amount of exposure that someone needs to be exposed to a concept or an idea or a product or a service before they actually make a purchasing decision is something like on average 12 times. That means someone has to be exposed to that thing, that thought has to enter their mind about purchasing on average 12 times before they eventually say, all right, I'll give it a go.
That's like toddlers with food or babies with food. It's like I think it's the same number.
Yeah.
They have to try it like at least 12 to 14, sometimes 20 times.
But I think, coming back to you though, it's hard, and like, generating, attracting new clients and finding customers when it comes to marketing is a tough job.
Yeah.
And I think, obviously we would love word of mouth and referrals to be our ultimate source of lead generation and customers, because that's proof that we're doing a good job. But I think so many coaches, specifically coaches in gyms, give up because it is disheartening when you look at the amount of effort that you put in and what you might get back from that, which I think is why so many people give up on social media so quickly, right? You've got this, in my opinion, an amazing platform that you can speak to the entire world, and it's totally free of charge. But it is hard work. Like, you're going to have to consistently put the stuff out there, consistently say the same message to the same people, and respect that, maybe by the 12th time they might say yes if they really, really like you. So I think about that all the time. Phil, what's been the hardest thing for you? What is the thing that, the world doesn't talk about when it comes to becoming a coach? That hard thing that you discovered when you started?
I think I had similar problems in the beginning, but not like, I'm not self-employed, but like the industry in Singapore was a little bit tricky last year. So not many leads walked through the door, and then we just had it. It was like, from then, like, not many of them signed up for a PT session. So I found myself thinking, oh, is it the right way? It's like so hard to get clients. And in Singapore, you're a little bit dependent on how much money you make, because it's like, it depends on your visa, right?
Okay.
So like, if I don't hit that number, I'm losing my visa, and then that's it, right? But
so you did have a pressure.
I felt a little bit of pressure, but also like, got like my colleagues or mates, they're just like, relax, it will be all right. Give yourself time, it will take time. You slowly building a network. You talk to clients, and then slowly it will build up. And indeed, it did. Like it just worked perfectly, actually. But like on the other side, I would say a biggest struggle is one, the working hours. You have like early mornings and then maybe late evenings if you're not setting any boundaries. And if you're looking for money, then you're not setting any boundaries. You just take everything you can get.
Yeah.
Right. So that was biggest struggle from me.
Would you say that it still looks like that for you? Like, are you still?
I'm pretty good in scheduling now and also setting like, but now I can't do the late evening, things like this. But this is what I learned in the course. Like I realized when I had like one of the assessments and Tammy was like you need to set boundaries. Like you're not sleeping 8 hours, you sleep 3.5 hours, and then you still do like a crazy training session, and then you see like 4 or 5 clients. It's like, what are you doing? And it's like, yeah, I feel like wrecked.
Yeah.
And since then, I really like try to pick wisely. Clients would tell them like, I can't do these hours, but it's not easy. Like it's not easy sometimes because they also struggle with their schedule, and especially the corporate, they do a lot of business trips, and then they try to get the sessions in somehow and things like this. So yeah, I think this is a point. And then the other point is I felt pressured sometimes to perform as a coach because they pay for the session. So you should be the one who is encouraging, who cheer them up, give them a good feeling on the gym floor. But what if you have a bad day and you're not feeling it and you're mentally down, something like this, and you just want to be for yourself, but still you got to see your 7 clients a day and need to be on the floor and smile. Yes, I think this is tough sometimes.
Matt, did you resonate with that?
Yeah. Less so now in what I'm doing, I think, but definitely before. When I was like new to the industry, like new into teaching yoga, it's just like you just say yes to everything. You want to be a good employee, like you'll cover, and you push yourself aside, like for what really, but for growth. But yeah.
I think it's like if you have like long-term clients and you have the relationship, it's easy. Like you don't have the pressure.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, it's really like they expect something from you.
Do you feel the pressure to be perfect?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I definitely.
100%, yes.
Yeah.
And they ask you like any question and expect you to answer anything, like all the, like you're not a doctor, right? You're not a physiotherapist. But like I had to learn how to say like, yeah, I can find out, but like I don't know. Actually, I don't know. It's like I don't know what's happening in your body, things like this. So it's like, but yeah, I feel the pressure that I need to have an answer for every question they ask.
I say that to my team a lot.
Yeah.
Because we're in the business of building relationships, and as you said, like, you know, when a relationship with your client, you know, you generate time, and you know, with time the relationship deepens, and every time you have a hard conversation, you work through a challenging time, your relationship kind of levels up.
Yeah.
But when you start with a new client, that relationship is on really thin ice, right? You haven't built any inroads. You haven't. There's no depth to the relationship. And you know what it's like. Imagine it wasn't a client and it was just, you know, this person that you're going for a drink with. One mistake, one slip up from that person and they're out, right? Because, you know, we've got to make a judgment call. We've got to make this decision early days to say, like, is this someone I really want to continue to invest my time and energy into? And so what I say that to the coach all the time, in relationships, new relationships, they're rocky. Right. And you need to, you know, the depth of the relationship is going to be based on quality interactions and, you know, you making deposits into their emotional bank account. And every time you do something good to that person, or you have this great interaction or this deep vulnerable moment, or you know, achieve success in your coaching, they make a deposit into your bank account. So when you have lots of deposits in a bank account, you have a bit of wiggle room. Like as a coach, you can afford to maybe have a bit of a slip up one day. You can have a bad day. You can show up late. You maybe even cancel on the session. It's not good practices, but because you've got all those deposits in that bank account in your relationship, they're going to forgive you, right? It's just like we have, I'm sure, like very long-term childhood friends, and they can say all the wrong things and not show up, but you're still going to kind of forgive them because they're your mate and you've been through so much.
Yeah.
And it's the same with relationships. In those early days of a relationship with new clients, you really do have to go above and beyond. And you do have to put on that smile.
Absolutely,
and you do have to bring the energy every time. But like you said, the deeper the relationship gets, like any relationship, it just gives you a bit more breathing space.
Yeah. I mean, it makes also easier for you, right? For example, this week was quite busy for me because like I headed to Hong Kong on Thursday afternoon. But I still try to get my numbers in somehow. So I squeezed everything in like 3.5 days. And then on Thursday morning, 6 a.m., I was just like, oh,
Dead.
Yeah. And then I looked at my clients, what I have now back to back, and I got 5 back to back. And I was like, oh, actually, these are all my long-term clients and I have good relationship with them. And it just cheered me up. It's like, oh, it's going to be nice. We have good chats. We train. Fantastic. Good start in the day.
Love it. Okay, Maddie. So going from biggest challenges starting as a coach, what would you now say if you had one piece of advice to someone starting new in the coaching industry? Apart from take the individual coaching course, what would your second piece of advice be? One thing.
From my experience, I would say take it slow and just trust the process. Like, just if you want to start coaching and you already have a full-time job, coach part-time, and then really reflect and be present and see how that makes you feel. Because you're never going to know unless you start. So if you're thinking about coaching, just try it. You don't have to go, like, that's my advice from my experience. You
Don't go head first.
That's I mean, yeah.
Yeah. You don't need to have your own gym to start.
Yeah. I would say
absolutely. Yeah.
I would say that's very smart advice. I think for someone, especially who's transitioning out of another job, I think throwing all your eggs in one basket and removing them from another, it can really add a lot of anxiety and fear to the process. And I think, you having that, you can still yank that up, by the way, it's strong. That we're referring to the microphone arm there, by the way, guys. So I think if you have that ability to do it, where you still can have income and you just test the waters, I think that's a smart thing to do.
Or if you have someone who can support you.
Yes. Phil.
I would say the same. Start slow, step by step. If it's your passion, you find a way. And don't think too much about money.
What do you think then? Yeah, go, Maddie.
Somebody at Pure, I was having a really bad day. I was holding back tears while I was teaching because it just felt so lonely and so isolated. And I went up to the staff room and everyone was there for once. And just some back and forth. And I was like, where can I learn more about this? And you guys are never here when I have questions. And then one of my old colleagues said to me, he said, don't stop searching for your answers. Keep searching for your answers and then you'll find them. And I've remembered that. And like, I'm getting all my answers now. So sometimes if you're not getting answers where you are, it might be coming from somewhere else. And then if you get them from coaching, that's like a hint,
That's good. Yeah, I also had someone telling me, if you never try, you never find out. It's like if it's your passion, but like you do something else and you're not happy, then make some changes and try something what you really like to do. Doesn't mean you have to go full-time in immediately from the next day on, but like do the steps and move slowly in the direction you want to go.
I would love it. If you could do it all again, if you could start your coaching career from scratch now, right? So you didn't have the Porsche job, the engineer job, you didn't do all the yoga, you didn't do the teaching assistant. You could start your coaching career. You're fresh out of university. You could start it. What would be your steps to get your career going?
big question.
That's a huge
Yeah,
question.
What would be the steps?
Would you work for someone? Would you work for yourself? Is
Oh,
certifications important? What are you looking for?
Depends where you are. Like, I think
I'm speaking about you, Phil.
yeah.
Just finished university. What are you gonna do? You want to?
I didn't finish university.
Yeah.
In this story, you
In this
finished
story,
university.
okay. I think I kind of like the setting what I'm in right now. So like, I'm not a freelance, like hired by a company, but I'm quite free in the things I can do. And so I think I would look something for that. For like a safe environment where you can grow, where you got like a nice team, where you can learn from people, or even find a mentor in it and to guide you, and then you find your way.
Love it.
I
love
think
that.
like
I love that
this.
your advice, what you would change is nothing because you're doing it right now.
Yeah.
Very cool. Maddie, what would you do?
Knowing what I know about myself now, if I had just left university or at that time, I would need to work with people.
Did you mean in a team?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why it's hard to work on your own doing home visits. So I'm really grateful. I spend not half the time, but I spend some of the time at the vault.
Yeah.
And then it's actually, yeah. So I would work with a team,
Yeah.
with someone, get a mentor, like very similar, actually. Yeah.
I actually started totally by myself.
Yeah.
I had
Yeah.
the choice of like go get a job at a Pure Fitness or a big gym chain, have mentors, have a system to follow, or just go solo.
How was that for you?
Well, I think it's worked out pretty well.
Yeah, right now, but like in the
Yeah.
in
I
the
just,
beginning,
like-
you're like,
I actually loved the challenge.
yeah,
Like I love the idea that it's like I'm gonna have to figure this all out by myself. And it was like you said, Phil, when you're passionate, when you're really passionate about it, and I've always been extremely passionate about this, you just know you're gonna figure it out. And I just knew I was gonna figure it out. But I just really enjoyed the challenge of having something that I had full control over. I enjoyed the challenge and the anxiety and fear that came with it. I liked that there was two. It was like really uncomfortable, but there was this potentially massive reward if I can be successful. I also think that I definitely think ego was involved in it a bit. I think I feel like I had never really achieved anything great up until that point in time. The day I started my business, I feel like a lot of my life has looked like, Ed, you have a lot of potential to do great things, and I didn't realize much of that potential. I felt that at rugby, I felt that in school, felt that academically, and it was like, when's like, I don't know, it was like I had this missing void in my life where I could really do something great, you know.
Yeah.
And up until that point in time, up until 20, I felt like I hadn't done it. And so maybe I had this kind of like chip on my shoulder a little bit, I think, where I was like, you know what, do it. Like no one's done this that, you know, like you're just venturing into very unknown territory. There was like, I had zero apprehension and fear though. But there also wasn't a gym that I really looked up to. There wasn't someone like a YouFit that I knew was doing something great. You know, I'd been in personal training studios and I'd seen what they were doing and I wasn't impressed. I'd been to Fitness First, California Fitness, to do my own training. I wasn't impressed. I would look at the personal trainers, you know, as a 19, 20-year-old and be like, I genuinely thought I was better than them.
yeah,
Like, I genuinely thought the things that they were doing with their clients, and I didn't have any certifications at this point in time, but I was like, that just doesn't look good. Like, they don't look like they care. They don't look like there's any relationship. It looks uncomfortable. The coach is on their phone. The coach is working so many hours that they just look bored. And I'm just like, that's not pulling me in to want to be a part of that. So maybe it's a combination of both. There wasn't anything aspirational out there that was pulling me to want to be a part of it. And my ego and had this chip on my shoulder that it was like, now it's your time to do something and impress your parents. I actually think that was something in the back of my mind.
that's
was
the
like,
mindset, right?
yeah, I'm trying to impress someone. And I really think it was actually my parents. Like, every bit of work experience I've done at that point in time, I've failed because I either quit after a week or
Your
2
parents
weeks.
were entrepreneurs as well, right? So
They were very entrepreneurial, so I think that
Yeah.
was definitely, they were hardworking people for sure. Dad not so much entrepreneurial, mum somewhat, yeah.
Okay.
But I think like hard work has always been a part of like the Haynes
Mm.
gene, like it's very ingrained in my family. So, but with that said, I did not work hard in other aspects of my life, so I wouldn't say that that's a thing.
I have a question to that.
Yeah.
It's like, was it a struggle for your parents in the beginning, seeing the fitness industry as a hardworking job, something like this?
Yeah.
Because like I was facing something like this a little bit, like to say like, oh, I want to switch my career as a fitness coach or personal trainer, and then it's like, this is nothing. Like you can't make any money. You like, how about you find a real job?
Yeah.
Was
so
it for you the same, or is it like?
it was interesting because I think if I put myself in my parents' shoes, I think they were genuinely like, what the hell is that going to do? You know, every time I did work experience and I worked in an office, or I even did, you know, kids coaching, or I worked for my mum delivering wine in a wine van, I'd always come home and be miserable. And I would sit down with them and say, like, how can you do this? Like, I would actually say to them, I'd say, are you happy in your job? And they would say things like, yeah, we're like, you know, we like our job, but you know, this is just the way it is.
The way it is.
You know, you start here in the ladder, and then after 20 years, you're going to be
going,
here.
yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not going to do that for 20 years. I just said, I'm like, there's no way.
Yeah.
But I'd also experienced it, right? I said, all right, if you're saying this is what I'm going to do, let me go and try it. So I'd get these jobs in these offices. I worked for UBS Bank for 3 months and then didn't work out any longer than that, for example. And I would sit there and be like, no, I'm not going to do this.
I felt
This is
the
not,
same.
it's just not for me. And I think if I put myself in my parents' shoes, they're probably thinking like, I mean, either he's going to be a professional rugby player, but there's not that really, it's not a career past 30. And I was already doing that. So again, you know, they were happy I was making some money, but I think they were just like, I just want him to find anything. And like, I want him to be excited about something. So the day I came home and said, I'm going to be a coach, I'm going to be a personal trainer, I know exactly what I'm doing, and I need to ask you, how the hell do I do that? And I think they were honestly a bit relieved. They didn't even care what I was doing. They were just like, okay, good. You know, he's because you know that
finally.
Yeah, because the first 3-4 months out of university, I just got, honestly, I played rugby. I got drunk 2 to 3 times a week. You know, I showed up and coached kindergarten, taught kindergarten for 2 hours and got some pocket money. And it was like, I wasn't doing anything. And it was like, I was even thinking, you know, I can see every day, they're like, what are you doing? Have you applied for jobs? Have you put your CVs in anywhere? You know, what do you want to do? And I'd always be like, just
leave
don't
me
want
alone.
Yeah, exactly. And I think when I started coaching, you know, I created my website for the first time. I bought my uniform, I bought my receipt books, I had an accounting folder. I was like, everything was ready to go. Hit live on my website, like go live website, had done search engine optimization, everything to get Coastal Fitness high on the Google ranking. And I hit live, and I remember just sitting there in my family home, literally just staring at the telephone, being like, please someone call me, please someone email me, please someone like ask me to coach them. And it was that actually maybe 7 hours after hitting live, I got my first email from someone who I ended up coaching then for 15 years.
Wow.
So I got my first email from my very first client saying, hey, would love to talk about coaching, saw your website. And I remember my PT hour, I think I on the website, I was $500 an hour, 500 Hong Kong. And I think she said, oh, 500, which is, by the way, like dirt cheap. Like that's half the price of anyone else at the time. But I was like, I don't care. I'm starting low and I'll take anything. And so she was like, $500. Oh, that seems a bit expensive. And I'm thinking like, what? She did all the research and it's so cheap. Yeah. And so I think she bargained me down to like $350.
And you did it.
I you know, I had this car, and I was basically losing money coaching her because I had to drive to her, pay for the parking. I was actually losing money on my first client, which I coached 3 times a week, right? But I was like, don't give a shit. Like, this is awesome. I'm actually doing this. This is so sick. And then I think my parents saw that I just went so head first into this, that they actually started worrying, because I was, waking up at 4 a.m. I was out the house by 5, sometimes earlier, coaching my first clients. Then I'd go do my first session with the rugby team. Then I'd coach clients all day, sleeping in my car, sleeping anywhere, park benches, football club, in the changing rooms. I would just go put a towel over my head and just sleep. I'd leave my house with this huge bag with all my client folders, like literally like I was going on a holiday every day. And I'd be out for the whole day. Then I'd have training at 8 p.m. at night, and then I'd get home at 11. And so I was living with my parents. I'd walk in the door, still like fired up though. Like, oh my God, I just had the sickest day, coached 10 clients in my rugby. And they just kept on saying, you need to slow down. Like, slow down. This is not sustainable. Give yourself a day off, take a holiday. And I was like, nope, not going to do it. Love this shit too much. And then obviously like 2 years passed of not taking a holiday and working 7 days a week. And like my body was like,
Bye.
yeah. See you later. So to answer your question, parents are actually very supportive of it. But I think if I put myself in their shoes, they were just relieved to see that I was actually really excited about doing something. And I think for them, it made sense. It made sense that I was doing something in the gym because I was already so passionate about it. I was coaching and helping people. So I think for them, it was like, this is right. Yeah. What are you thinking, Maddie? You look like you're deep in thought.
Oh, I can relate to a lot of your story.
Yeah.
Parents trying to push me into corporate jobs. And then me just saying no, and then them really pushing me. And I was like, I really don't want to do that. And they'd say, but you haven't tried it. And I'm just like, but I know just no. And then of course I would do it. I worked for my mom's friend and I was just miserable. Like after rugby training, people would be like a new player would be like, oh, so what do you do for work? And I'd be like, and I remember this one time I almost cried. She was like, oh my gosh, okay, let's change the subject. I was like, please do. And then when I started working in the school, because my dad's like, you did that for a little bit before, and that seemed to make you really happy. And then so he encouraged me to apply, and it was at Kennedy School, which is near where we grew up. And he was right. It made me really happy, and things again, like kind of just started going right for me finally.
Okay, I'm gonna bring this back to the individual coaching course to wrap this all up. I want to know, Maddie, you shared a little bit about why you decided to do the individual coaching course. Phil, why did you what was the thing that made you decide to go ahead and do it and sign up?
I listened to your podcast, and then you've been talking about that course and actually mentoring new coaches. For me, as a new coach or as a new in this industry, I was like looking for exactly something like this. Because all the other courses I did is just like pure theory. You walk through everything, but in the end, you got a certification about like you're on the floor and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing actually. Like there's nothing practical in this, and I want to have more experienced people mentoring me and guiding me through how to set up a program, how to deal with different things, how to do an assessment, right? Movement assessment, movement screen is like, you read through all this, but like when you're actually on the floor, you're like, oh, dang, and let's try this or let's try this. So no ideas, everything comes up on the fly. So I was really looking for something like this, and then I heard it in your podcast, and I think we met a week later in Bangkok Throwdown, and I was like, Ed, thank you for that. I wait exactly for this. I'm in. I remember that one, and then
love it. I remember that well.
Yeah,
Maddie, anything to add with your own story?
I listened to the podcast with you and Liam talking about it twice, possibly like 2.5 times.
Yeah.
Just to me, and then I messaged Ed.
We were so fired up in that podcast.
I
can't wait for this thing to come out.
I just wanted to make sure, like, is this right? Is this right? Is this right? And it felt right. When I did my adult yoga teacher training, it felt right. And I had people warning me, you've never met these teachers. You've just followed them online. These online teachers are not. And I was like, everything about, I've connected with them online. It feels right. And it was amazing. So sort of learned to trust my gut feeling a little, or a lot, and it just felt right, and I was right.
Can I ask you guys, and maybe if there's nothing that's changed, then you can definitely say that. But have there been any big or any changes actually to your coaching career since completing the course?
Honestly, yes. I think the way how I'm acting on the floor is very different. I guess I'm way more confident. I got like a game plan in my head, even if like the client walks in and tells me, "Oh, I was out last night. I'm on a piss. Can't do this. Can't do this." But I got like templates in my head which I can use, and I immediately create a new workout or an easy session, but still hitting all the petals. It's like, I think this is the biggest change. Like, I'm way more confident, even like in the first client contact, things I'm gonna ask or do it's just a simple movement screen, what I'm looking for, like all the red flags, and then that's completely changed for me. Absolutely.
Did your client books grow? Like, are you coaching more people now? Are you always really busy?
I mean, this year's been really crazy busy. I would say I can't relate it to the course itself, but like, yeah, like this year is just busy, because so many leads walking through the door, and then you get your numbers in, and but I realized I only lose actually clients when they leave the country.
That's a great sign.
Yeah, and but I also have like clients telling me that something changed in the program, like they feel the difference from before and after.
Have you asked them what that difference is?
I remember I did for like, can't remember.
They can just feel.
They just feel different.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I think it's just being aware of what you're doing with them. Yeah.
Maddie?
Like biggest takeaways.
Anything changed?
Programming. Just the confidence I have in programming, reading programs. I just feel so much more confident programming for a client. And then kind of similar, like, oh, this machine's not available. Just being able to like come up with something else, and initial consultation. Didn't really do them before. I did like a PAR-Q, but not like that, which I think I feel when I'm talking to mums, like that connection that we get is really, that's really helped.
Yeah.
That's really changed.
Love it.
Yeah.
Maddie, what's next for you in your coaching journey?
Exciting things I already know. I and who knows? I've starting to teach mobility at the Vault, so I'm going to add in bridging my two worlds. And we've got a women's program, women coached by women for women, launching next year at the Vault. So I'll be teaching group strength classes, group resistance classes next year at the Vault as well.
Nice.
And then probably a New Year promo. Just gonna keep doing what I'm doing basically, but grow, get bigger, learn how to manage accounts a bit better and money and expenses.
It's the hard part, isn't it?
That's tough.
Yeah. It's easy
but so important.
Yeah, it's really good for me because I never really had this. I've always relied on my parents, and then I relied on my boyfriend, now husband. So, I mean, I had my own income, but I was like, oh, they're looking after the important stuff. And then it took a little health scare for me to realize if anything happened, my daughter and I are screwed.
Yeah.
So this is,
Nice.
Yeah.
Phil, what does the future look like for you?
I think I'm still just developing my niche, where I'm going or want to go to, and I think that's the next. It's just like going with the flow and
Trust
look,
the process.
trust the process. Yes. Make maybe some more courses, things like this. Yeah, just being open-minded and see where the journey takes me.
Love it.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you so much for your time, for your
Welcome.
energy, for your sharing. It was an absolute privilege having you both on, as I said, our second cohort, and you guys were a great cohort, and you two, you know, contributed so much to the calls and conversations every time we had them. So very excited to see where your journey is going and what you've already achieved in you know, the short time that you guys have been, you know, implementing this stuff into your lives. So thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing where it takes you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Ed.
Ed.